We think it's best if you skip the family gathering this year, Elowen. We want it to be calm and quiet for once. That was the message from my mom. The words shined on my phone's screen, but they did not feel warm. They felt cold and sharp. Your brother Callan is bringing his new fiancée, and we just want to avoid any problems. I stared at the message for a long time. I blinked and read it again, just to make sure I understood it right. For 15 years, I had hosted our big holiday party. Every single year. And now, with just one message, I was not invited anymore. My name is Elowen Maris. I am 40 years old. Since I was 25, I have hosted the holiday gathering in my brownstone house in Philadelphia. My home is old and beautiful with tall windows and a big wooden staircase. Every December, I turned it into a winter dream. I spent 3 whole days cooking special meals. I made roasted turkey, honey-glazed ham, creamy mashed potatoes, and bright green beans with butter. I baked pies, cakes, and cookies from scratch. I decorated every room with twinkling lights, shiny ornaments, candles that smelled like cinnamon, and fresh green branches from pine trees. When guests came in from the cold, they always gasped and smiled. They left my house with full bellies and happy hearts. But this year, my family wanted to celebrate at Callan's small one-bedroom condo in Baltimore. It was the same condo they once whispered was too plain and too boring to feel like home. I typed back a short reply. Perfect. Enjoy the holidays. My mom answered right away. Don't be dramatic, Elowen. You know how worked up you get. Callan and Seraphine want something simple this year. Worked up. That was the word they used for my excitement. For my love of planning. For my joy in making things special. When I spent 2 years fixing my old house by myself on weekends, they called me obsessed. When I turned my small baking hobby into a 6-figure boutique baking business, they called me stubborn. When I started my party planning brand, Sweet Legacy, and it was featured in magazines like Modern Living and Food and Table, they called me intense. Intense. Always that word. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter and looked around my quiet house. It was December 1st. The Christmas tree was not up yet, but I could already picture it standing tall in the living room. I imagined the handmade ceramic ornaments I had collected from different countries. I thought about the shiny old glass decorations I found in a tiny shop in Vermont. I remembered the vintage angel my grandmother gave me before she passed away. That angel always sat at the top of my tree. I waited to feel angry, but I didn't feel angry. I felt free. My phone buzzed again. You're not upset, right? We just thought it's Callan's turn. He's engaged now. And Seraphine's family is very proper. Proper? As if I had ever been improper. Callan, who could never stay in one apartment longer than a year. Seraphine, who once laughed and said she had never cooked a full meal at home. And me. I was the one who was too much. I opened my banking app and looked at my savings. My business was strong. I was proud of myself. Then I opened Instagram for my company, Sweet Legacy. I stared at the empty post box for a moment. Then I began to type. Exciting news! This year, Sweet Legacy will host a special holiday dinner for 20 single moms and their children right here in our founder's home. My fingers hovered for 1 second. Then I pressed post. After that, I texted my mom again. Not upset at all. I have other plans. And I did have other plans. Real joy does not come from pretending everything is perfect. It does not come from staying quiet to keep others comfortable. Real joy comes from helping people. It comes from giving love to those who truly need it. It comes from setting your table for people who will never call you too much. That year, my home would be fuller than ever before. And I would not miss my family, not even for 1 second. The next morning, I made 2 phone calls. The first call was to my dear friend Zariah. She runs the Kensington Children's Outreach Center. It is a place that helps children and families who are having a hard time. Everything is ready, Zariah said happily. The kids are counting the days. Are you really doing this, Elowen? More sure than I have ever been, I answered, feeling warm inside my chest. The second call was to my agent. Yes, I have an agent. That was another thing my family used to roll their eyes about. The contracts are in, she said. The producers are thrilled. Food Network locked in your holiday special. They'll be filming all week. I leaned against the counter and took a slow, deep breath. A holiday special. On Food Network. They wanted to film me transforming my home and hosting the children. My phone buzzed again. 3 more messages from my mom. What plans? You always host Christmas. Are you traveling? Elowen, please answer. I gently turned my phone to silent and opened my thick spiral notebook. My brother once teased me and called it my control freak diary. Last year, it held meal timelines, decoration sketches, and seating charts. This year, it held something different. There was a knock at my front door. When I opened it, Mrs. Thalberg from next door stood there with a cheerful smile. She held a festive tin filled with cinnamon pecan cookies. "Elowen, honey," she said. "I just saw your mom at the co-op. Is it true you're not hosting this year? The whole block is talking. People plan their holidays around your party." I smiled and took the tin. "Don't worry, Mrs. Thalberg," I said kindly. "The party is still happening. It's just a little different this year." She looked confused but nodded slowly. "Well, I'm sure it will be lovely," she said before walking back home. Another message came. This one was from Callan. "Mom says you're mad. Don't overreact. You know how intense your parties get. Seraphine's family likes things simple." There was that word again. Simple. I turned to the page in my notebook titled Holiday Magic. Under it I had written, "Joy for 30 kids and their moms." I had drawn small pictures of each room. A sugar plum forest with pink lights and soft music. A North Pole kitchen where children could bake cookies. A gingerbread craft room filled with candy and frosting. Simple was not my style. And that was okay. The next 2 weeks went by quickly. They were busy, bright, and full of excitement. While my family kept sending messages that tried to make me feel guilty, the Food Network crew filmed every special moment. We transformed my brownstone into a magical world. The living room had a tall Christmas tree wrapped in glass bulbs and satin ribbons. The staircase was covered in green garlands and golden bows. The dining room held one long table set for 35 guests, children, moms, and staff from the center. In the kitchen, we prepared for baking lessons. We made sugar cookies shaped like stars and trees. We mixed gingerbread dough and rolled it out. We heated milk and stirred it with cocoa powder and sugar to make rich hot chocolate. One day, I stood in the living room while the cameras filmed. "This is our wish tree," I said, smiling at the children nearby. "Each ornament stands for a child's holiday wish. And every wish will come true." Behind me, children wearing matching red scarves laughed as soft snow from a snow machine floated in the air. My family wanted calm and quiet. I created magic. Soon, the local news shared a headline. "Local baker transforms brownstone into winter wonderland for children's home." There was a big photo of the glowing wish tree on their website. My phone rang just 5 minutes later. "Elowen, what is this article?" my mom asked. "Are you doing this to hurt us?" I looked out the window at volunteers hanging lights across my front gate. They were smiling and humming holiday songs. "No, Mom," I said gently. "I'm doing this because 30 children in this city have never had a real holiday before." There was a long silence. "But what about family?" she asked in a small voice. I did not hesitate. "Exactly, Mom," I said. "What about family?" Later that day, my dad left a voicemail. "Princess," he said softly, "your brother says Seraphine is upset. She thinks you're trying to steal the spotlight. Can't you just come to their place for dinner? Keep it simple." But I was not about being simple anymore. I was standing in the hallway with Zariah, checking the lights, when the front door suddenly opened. A gust of cold air rushed in. It was Callan. He came alone. He stood in the foyer and looked around slowly. His eyes grew wide as he saw the staircase wrapped in green and gold. He saw the long dining table ready for 35 guests. He smelled cookies baking in the oven. What is all this?" he asked quietly. I smiled at him. "This," I said, spreading my arms, "is what the holidays should feel like. Not just quiet, not just calm, but full of joy, love, and giving." His eyes moved toward the parlor, where cameras and lights were set up. "Is that Food Network?" he asked. "Yes," I answered. "It is." He blinked in surprise. "It turns out," I said softly but proudly, "that my intense parties were exactly what they were looking for." I looked around my glowing home, filled with laughter and kindness. "The special airs on Christmas Eve," I said. Callan's face turned bright pink, like he had just run all the way around the block. He thought I was trying to make him look bad. I gently handed him a big folder. It was thick and a little heavy. Inside were colorful pictures and sweet letters from every child who would be coming to celebrate Christmas at my house. Some letters had messy handwriting. Some had little hearts and stars drawn around the words. "No, Callan," I said softly. "This isn't about showing off or trying to be better than anyone. This is about giving these kids the kind of Christmas magic I used to make for our family. Remember? Before everyone started saying it was too much." Callan didn't answer right away. He opened the folder and slowly turned the pages. With each picture he saw, his face changed. The tight look around his eyes went away. His shoulders relaxed. He looked less upset and more thoughtful. "Wheela, you should head out," I said gently. "You've got that quiet dinner to plan, remember? Alessa's family is waiting for you." Callan nodded and walked toward the door. His footsteps sounded heavy at first, then softer. The door clicked shut behind him. Zariah came over and gave my arm a little squeeze. "Your brother looked completely shocked," she whispered. I smiled a small smile. "He's not the only one who's going to be surprised," I said. Then I opened my planning notebook and checked the last page. Every list had a check Everin. Every detail was ready. Everything was right on time. That evening, my phone rang again. It was my mom. It was the third time she had called in just 2 days. "Elowen, honey," she said in a careful voice. "Your father and I were talking. Maybe we were too quick to judge. Maybe we were wrong. Your house really is perfect for Christmas." I closed my eyes for a second and took a slow breath. "Mom," I said kindly, "everything is already set up. The Children's Center is counting on this party. The Food Network already has their crew ready to film. There's no turning back now." She was quiet. I could almost hear her thinking. I knew she felt left out. Not because she missed me, but because she missed being the one everyone looked at. This Christmas party had become the most talked about event in the city. "But we're still family," she said at last. "We are," I replied, watching volunteers hang shiny silver stars above the front windows. "And sometimes the family needs to learn something important. Peace doesn't come from telling someone to be quiet. Peace comes from letting people be who they really are." I hung up the phone. Almost right away, a text message popped up. It was from Bryony. "Everin wants to know if you need more helpers tomorrow." I smiled at the screen. I had already seen how much fun Everin was having while helping us set up. I added his name to the evening shift list. Maybe some traditions really were worth keeping, just in a different way than before. When Christmas Eve finally arrived, fresh white snow covered the whole city. The rooftops, the sidewalks, the trees, everything looked soft and sparkly like it belonged in a snow globe. My brownstone house glowed with warm golden lights. Soft music floated out through the windows. From outside, you could see little pieces of magic in every room. The children started arriving in small groups. Their coats were dusted with snowflakes. Their noses were pink from the cold. Their eyes were wide with excitement. "Welcome to holiday magic," I said happily as I opened the door for each group. My heart felt so full it almost hurt, but in a good way. Inside, the house was alive with joy. There was a hot cocoa bar with marshmallows, candy canes, and whipped cream. There were cozy storytelling corners with big pillows and soft blankets. There were craft tables covered in glitter, paper snowflakes, and ribbons. In the kitchen, kids were learning how to bake and decorate sugar cookies. In the living room stood the wish tree. It sparkled with tiny lights. Hanging from its branches were ornaments. Each ornament held a small piece of paper. On each paper was a handwritten wish from a child. The night before, Everin had helped me put lights all around the garden and wrap twinkle lights around the staircase railing. "Your sister talks a lot about quiet holidays," he said while we worked. "But this is what the holidays are supposed to feel like." At 7 o'clock that evening, the Food Network special started airing on TV. It was called Holiday Magic with Elowen Maris. I was too busy passing out scarves, helping with cookie frosting, and tying bows to watch it. But Zariah kept running over to give me updates. "The internet is exploding," she said excitedly. "Philadelphia is trending. Everyone is talking about your party." At 8 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on my apron and went to answer it. When I opened the door, Seraphine was standing there. Her eyes were red like she had been crying. Her voice sounded small. "I just watched the special," she said quietly. "Elowen, I'm so sorry. We were wrong." She stepped inside and looked around. She saw the warm lights. She heard the children laughing. She smelled cookies baking. "All these years we called you intense," she said softly. "But you weren't too much. You were just magical." Behind her stood my mom and dad. They both looked surprised, like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. My mom held a little monogrammed handkerchief in her hand. Her eyes were shiny with tears. My dad just stared at the children playing in my house. Some kids were decorating cookies in the kitchen. Others were trying on warm new scarves by the fireplace and twirling around to show their friends. Music floated through the air. The whole house shimmered with light and joy. "The way those children look at you," my mom whispered. "It's how you used to look years ago when you planned Christmas before we started saying it was too much." I stood there quietly for a moment. "Peace comes in many forms," I said gently. "Sometimes it's quiet, but sometimes it's loud and full of happy chaos. My dad stepped forward without saying anything and wrapped his arms tightly around me. "Princess," he said softly, "we forgot what Christmas really means. Can you forgive us?" Before I could answer, a small voice called out, "Miss Elowen, come quick." It was Linnea, one of the youngest girls from the outreach center. "Cashin found his wish ornament on the tree," she said excitedly. I looked at my family and smiled. "Do you want to see what real holiday magic looks like?" They followed me into the living room. There stood Cashin. He was 8 years old and usually very quiet. Most days he barely spoke at all. But now he was holding his ornament while shaking hands. Inside the ornament was a note. It said, "You have been matched with your new family. They are here to meet you tonight." A man and a woman stepped forward from the crowd. They knelt down so they were at Cashin's eye level. Cashin stared at them for 1 second, and then he ran straight into their arms. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Even the Food Network crew stopped filming. Some of them quietly wiped away tears. My mother squeezed my hand tightly. "This is what you do," she whispered. "You make dreams come true." Across the room, I saw Elisa helping kids frost sugar cookies while Everin led a group in singing Christmas carols. My father was sitting in the den, surrounded by children who were begging him to tell another story. He looked softer than I had ever seen him. Later that night, when the last cups of hot chocolate were handed out and the music became slow and gentle, my mother found me standing in a quiet corner. "When we said we wanted peace this Christmas," she said, "we thought that meant quiet and simple. But this, watching dreams come true, seeing love in action, this is real peace. That's all I ever wanted to create," I said. It was never about being perfect. It was about making magic real. The night slowly came to an end. The children, sleepy but smiling, were taken safely back to the center, except for Cashin, who left holding hands with his new parents. The Food Network crew packed up their cameras, still excited, and talking about how they wanted to make this an annual special. As my family gathered their coats, Elisa hugged me tightly. "Our quiet dinner tomorrow feels a little empty now," she said shyly. "Any chance you could host instead?" I laughed and held up my planning notebook. I might have already prepared for that. My dad chuckled from the doorway. "Of course you did, Princess. You always think of everything." And so, on Christmas Day, my family came back to my house, the same house they once said was too much. But this time, there were no teasing comments. No side glances at my decorations. There was only thankfulness. As we sat down for dinner, my mom lifted her glass. "To Elowen," she said proudly, "who taught us that peace isn't found in being simple and quiet. Peace is found in creating joy and magic for others." I looked around at the faces I loved. Some faces looked softer than before. Some looked wiser. But we were all together again. Sometimes the best gifts don't come wrapped in shiny paper. Sometimes the best gift is when the people you love finally understand who you truly are. And sometimes the truest peace comes from being seen, heard, and loved exactly as you are.